Hey Wargamers, welcome back to the channel, Death from Above Wargaming. I'm Aaron, and I'm coming back finally with the final round of our exciting Alpha Strike Battlytics tournament. So, sorry it's been a couple of weeks. We have been busy at work on our exciting new Destiny project. We have some new tools out. We've got some new missions coming out as well. So lots of excitement here. We're keeping very busy over in the studio. But tonight, guys, we are going to wrap this tournament up. So it's been an exciting journey. And in the final round, we have the Moon Knights facing off against Thunder Rolls. Now, both of these lances are just devastatingly powerful. The Moon Knights, who I think were a little bit of an underdog in my opinion, have just been absolutely rolling over the competition. And of course, Thunder Rolls, you've seen just decimating almost everything that stands in their way. They had a couple of close calls, but we'll see how they do in this final round. So, guys, are you ready? Let's dive in and take a look and see who is going home with the trophy. All right, guys, here we are. We're going to take a look at Thunder Rolls first. So I was just looking at my bracket here. Just a reminder, Thunder Rolls seeded 7th in this tournament, so they did get a bye round in week 1. The Moon Knights seeded 12th, so not terrible. And they had to actually fight their way through all of the rounds to get to the finals here. Now, like I said in the intro, both of these teams very strong, but very different. Thunder Rolls absolutely designed to be a damage dealer, and the Moon Knights designed to be tough and durable. So it is going to be exciting to see how this one pans out. But just to recap here, Thunder Rolls, we've seen it before. We've got 2 Warhammer 6Ds. We've got a Crab CRB-20. This is typically the meat shield. Runs in just a couple of hexes in front of the main lance. Soaks a lot of the fire. And then backing all of those mechs up is a lone Trebuchet 5N. I'm just dropping in those LRMs from long and extreme range. So overall, fairly even point distribution, good armor, good speed, great firepower. So we'll see how these guys can do. Now jumping down to the Moon Knights, this is a very different configuration. We've got a Battlemaster 1G. Now this is a regular skill 4 pilot here. We've also got an awesome 8Q, another skill 4 pilot, a Warhammer 6D, another regular pilot, and then a Thunderbolt, also a regular pilot. So all skill 4 pilots. Clearly here, the Moon Knights not looking to get in a long-range scrap. The Battlemaster, the Thunderbolt, both of those mechs lacking extreme range firepower, but just across the board, guys, gobs and gobs of armor. Look at the key force markers, that armor basically tipping the chart. This might be one of the highest that we've seen in the tournament. So very, very strong across the board. And of course, that Battlemaster at 85 tons, getting that extra pip of structure as well. So again, both of these lances, very powerful, very well designed. They made it all the way through the tournament. Both, oddly enough, battling in the name of House Davian here. So clearly the tournament was fixed by the Fed Sunspot. All right, so jokes aside, guys, let's dive in and see how Thunder Rolls did. All right, guys, here we are, Thunder Rolls. We're going to take a look at some of the lance metrics first, then we'll move into the individual mechs and we'll talk about what looks interesting. So we're going to start with rated versus actual damage. This is a pretty typical pattern we've seen for this lance. Doing very well at long range, exceeding rated damage expectations, and obviously not doing so well at short range, mainly because they're staying out of short range, which is what this lance really wants to do. They want to stay at long and deal substantial amounts of damage, and then move in closer to medium and try to finish off the opponent. So down in the battle metrics in the center there, what we see here is we see 59.1% of the damage done in these simulations was done by Thunder Rolls. They only took 40.9%, which means The Moon Knights only were able to do 40.9%. However, let's keep in mind the armor differential between these two lances is substantial. So I don't think I'm going to rush to judgment quite yet. Looking at survivability, 60.7% on Thunder Rolls. That's not bad, but it's not as good as we've seen in the past. So they definitely are taking some damage from this opposition. In terms of movement, this is pretty typical. Looking at that center radar diagram, you can see the crab just charging into its demise, but buying time for those Warhammers and that trebuchet to put damage in from range. So their average range, 14.7 inches, average damage, 31.2. Very solid. Again, not as high as we've seen in the past, but still very, very good. Taking 21.6 points, and crits are about on par, but they are ahead of the game there as well. Overall, lance efficiency was 112.7%, so very respectable there. Both of the Warhammers, not surprisingly, doing very, very well. Let's check out, speaking of which, let's check out those Warhammers. So typically when we look at the Warhammers, we've seen one that takes all the damage and one that does more damage in return. It looks like this Warhammer does almost nearly as much as the other. It does take about 4 times as much damage as its counterpart, but both of them are doing relatively equal damage, which comes on early and stays pretty strong throughout the game. This one dealing 10.7 points of damage. Now, in a game of Alpha Strike, you know, that's not as high as I would expect for this particular mech based on what we've seen in the past, but it's still substantial, averaging over a point of damage per turn in this game. Criticals are very strong, though. 2.2 criticals dealt, 0.9 criticals taken, so very good there. And efficiency at 142%. It's very, very good. Again, a byproduct of the right roll with the right lance design, so overall very good there. The other Warhammer, just doing fantastic as well. It does really solid damage. Again, almost about a point a turn, a little over a point a turn, I should say. Barely taking any damage, only taking a couple points of damage. So not seeing very many crits at all. It's barely ever in structure on average. I mean, it's down to about 12 total pips, which is like about one pip off the card. So not much to say here. Survivability, 95.2%. Efficiency, also 147. So this lance definitely firing on all cylinders. Now the crab, crab doing what crab does. There's really not much to say here. So this guy diving in hard and fast, sprinting, it looks like the first 2 turns. Getting some damage on the board, 3.1 points. It's not bad. You know, that's like an overheat shot or a couple of shots at medium range or a single shot at short. But overall, you know, it's doing its job. Efficiency at 61.7%. But again, this is the sacrificial lamb. This mech doing what it's supposed to do. We all know the story here. And lastly, the trebuchet. So let's take a look here. This one has been hit or miss. In some games, we've seen it do very well. In other games, we've seen it struggle to keep up with the Warhammers. In this game, it's somewhere in between. 6.1 points of damage. It's not tremendous, but at the same time, you know, it's almost hitting the average marker for damage, which is 12.5%. This guy's at 11.6, so it's almost there. Efficiency right around 100%, 99.1 to be precise. Can't ask for more than that. I mean, again, the mech is a low-cost mech, doesn't have a ton of armor. If you run it in, you risk getting it killed. I'd rather take the 6 points, get the return on investment, and keep this mech on the table. It is taking a couple of criticals by the end of the game on average. It's just starting to see its armor peeled off. You know, some games it is getting destroyed with a survivability of about 68%. But again, overall, happy with this mech's performance. All right, let's take a look at the Moon Knights next. All right, so here we are, Moon Knights. Let's see what these guys are doing. Now, I was really surprised here to see the extreme range, the long range, both of these exceeding expectations. I was expecting this lance to be more, you know, I guess more favoring the shorter range battles, but it seems like they're able to compete at those further ranges, which is pretty good. despite that low skill, or lower skill, I should say. Does not look like they're getting into short range. You'll notice average range for this lance is 14.4 inches. That doesn't bode well for the Battlemaster and the Thunderbolt, which are only capable of putting down 1 point at long range. That could explain the damage differential. Again, the Moon Knight's doing 40.9%. The Thunder Rolls Lance doing 59.1%. Overall lance survivability looks good at 53%. And then the efficiency analysis putting this lance at 81.2%. So that's about 30% less than Thunder Rolls. Again, this lance designed to be tough and designed to be an outlast lance, I should say. But you know, overall, let's see how each of these mechs did. So first thing we'll start is the Battlemaster. So the Battlemaster here, again, regular skill pilot, does not have extreme range, only looking at long range damage of 1. So that really hurts it, I think, throughout this fight. Its average range is 10.8 inches, so it is getting into medium range, but you can see the damage there just hovering around 12.5%. Not what you want necessarily for this mech. It does tank like a boss, though, 21.1% damage taking, and still survives 40% of the time. That's pretty good. It is taking some more crits than it's dealing. Overall efficiency, it's not terrible, 90.5%. Typically, I don't have very good luck with this Battlemaster variant. I would say, you know, the one with the ERPPC, I believe the Lost Tech refit tends to do a lot better. And of course, you can start to customize it, get rid of that SRM, maybe throw in an LRM if you can, drop the rear medium lasers and the machine guns, something along those lines. I think you can really make this mech a little bit more efficient. Now, let's take a look at the Awesome. Doing a great job. Now, one thing to point out is this Awesome is in a second line role. That Battlemaster in a Vanguard role, this one in second line, meaning it's hanging back, or at least it's trying to. And you can see in the central radar there, it does take a little bit of a slower path in, but it's doing okay damage. I mean, look at the Y scaling. It's only scaled up to 2, so it's really only doing about 1.25 points at its peak, and across the whole game, it's only averaging 6.3. So it is getting shots down range, but I mean, I think for an Awesome, you could expect a lot more, and I think that is, I think that's reflective of the second line role in general. Typically, you know, the Trebuchets or the weaker mechs are the ones you want to put in a second line role. This one I probably would have put in a Vanguard role. But, you know, I don't know. It survives 98.1% of the time. That's almost every single game. So it's there to the bitter end fighting. It's only taking 1.6% of the damage. Efficiency 91.8%, so not terrible. Now, the Warhammer. So this is the same Warhammer variant that we see in Thunder Rolls. It's the 60, you know, the twin PPCs, so on and so forth. It just doesn't perform the same way. It's in a Vanguard role. I don't know if it has to do more with the roll or with the lance comp, but you know, you can see it's dealing only 5 points of damage. It only survives 44.8% of the time, and its efficiency is 79.7%. That's like just a little bit over half of what the other two Warhammers were capable of doing. So why is it so different? It's just an interesting scenario here. I have to tell you, it's definitely the lance comp. But, you know, regardless, this thing, again, you know, it's dealing some damage, but probably could do a lot more. Now, the Thunderbolt, I think, really suffers here. Its average range, 13.2. It needs to be 12 or less. Otherwise, it's really hamstrung, only doing 1 point of damage. And you can see that the thing, over to, again, 2,500 simulations, average across those 2,500 games, it's doing under 4 damage. For a mech of this cost with this armor profile, I would expect more. Now, the Lance Commander did deploy this in a strike roll, so it is moving in very quick, as quickly as it can. But it's a Thunderbolt. They don't move very quick, right? Sprint 6 inches, you can walk 4. It just, I think, it's just having a tough time. And I don't think that's a byproduct of the roll or the Lance comp. I think just this mech in general and that Battlemaster as well just really suffer being so expensive and having such weak long-range damage. Survivability for this mech, 28.8%. Did receive a lot of critical hits, not really doing a ton back in return. And overall efficiency, 62.8%. So, guys, this is the quick rundown here. I'm really excited to get into the final analysis. I also have a couple more special analyses here that I want to dive into with you, so stick around for that. It's coming right up. All right, here we are, the final results, guys. Who is going to win the Battlytics tournament? Will the armor of the Moon Knights withstand the onslaught of Thunder Rolls? Let's take a look. So the first thing you notice is the key force markers. The lighter line is Thunder Rolls, and you can see that massive difference, the delta between the Moon Knights and Thunder Rolls in terms of armor, in terms of structure. They're just slightly slower, the Moon Knights are, but their skill is slightly worse. So how's it going to shake out? So let's look at the Battlytics stats first. So we've got 14.7 out of 14.4 average range. I think that is in favor of Thunder Rolls. Damage dealt. On average, Thunder Rolls dealing 10 more points of damage per game. Keep in mind that armor is huge. So, again, the Moon Knights looking at, on average, about 1.5 points per mech in armor and about a point in structure. So, we'll see. Now, in terms of critical hits, Thunder Rolls dealing substantially more there, 6.5 to 4.7. And then in terms of the hit percentage, Thunder Rolls, not surprisingly, hitting almost twice as many shots, 61% to 38%, courtesy of that better skill rating. That does add up. That does contribute to that higher damage number. And it contributes to the kills. So Thunder Rolls looking at 2.6 kills. The Moon Knights only able to deliver just under 1 kill on average per game. Survivability, Moon Knight's doing slightly worse, about 7% worse. Efficiency, they're about 30% less. So guys, I think you guessed it. There it is. Thunder Rolls, congratulations. You have won the Battlytics tournament. They won 68% of these 2,500 simulations. There were no draws. The Moon Knights, not getting steamrolled, though. I mean, winning almost 33%, one out of 3 games they're winning. So, if you put these two lances on a tabletop, could be anybody's game. But, the Battlytics engine running 2,500 games, consistently, Thunder Rolls coming out on top. So, very exciting stuff. Now, I have 2 additional, maybe 3, 2 additional looks at, I got 2 additional analyses for you here. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take a look at the direct fire roll. There were some comments about it being the silver bullet. I wanted to make sure that wasn't the case. I wanted to make sure that the engine wasn't, or just that style of play, wasn't too broken. So I wanted to run it through the ringer and see. So I did 2 different things here. The first thing that we're going to look at is we're going to take a look at modifying the Thunder Rolls lance. So what I've got here is switching both of the Warhammers in the Thunder Rolls lance from a direct fire roll into a Vanguard roll, and I wanted to see what happened. So let's take a look. Okay, so here it is. Key force markers obviously are the same. The lance did not change from a metrics or number perspective. What does change though are the derived numbers that we get out of the engine. So we've got average range much closer, right? It was about 14 for both of the other lances in the core analysis. Here we're looking at medium range, 11.8, and then the Moon Knight's closing into 10.5 inches. Now look at the damage dealt, so much different. Thunder Rolls still able to deliver tons of damage here, but the Moon Knights now able to deal 10 more points of damage. So Thunder Rolls damage went up by 2, Moon Knights went up by 10. That's a substantial margin there. Critical hits much closer. Accuracy just slightly better for the Moon Knights because now they're fighting at a closer range. and the kills completely different now. So you'll notice because those Warhammers are not protected in the Thunder Rolls lands, the Moon Knight's able to connect and able to just very quickly melt those Warhammers away, getting 2.8 kills per game. So in this scenario analysis where I change the rolls around, the Moon Knights win. The Moon Knights win 64%. It's almost a flip-flop of what we saw before. And what else is interesting on the efficiency side, the efficiency is almost equal, right? 96.6, 96.5. So what does that tell me? Well, it didn't prove or disprove whether or not direct fire is the silver bullet. We see here that the Moon Knights, doing much better. Thunder Rolls doing a lot worse, but again, that's probably a byproduct of those Warhammers getting too close and getting cooked. So what I want to do is I want to take a look at a second analysis. Now, in this second analysis, the second scenario analysis, I take the Awesome and the Warhammer in the Moon Knight's lands, and I switch those to direct fire, and I reset all of the Thunder Rolls mechs back to their original rolls, which were also direct fire. So curious to see how that pans out. So guys, let's take a look. Interestingly enough, the range, the average range is now further away, 15.8 inches. Damage for the Thunder Rolls lance went down from both of the prior analyses, and so did the Moon Knight's damage. The other thing that I see here, critical hits back in favor of Thunder Rolls. Accuracy, again, down in the 30s for those Moon Knights. And then the kills, very similar to what we saw in that initial analysis. Wins, loss, draws, 72% of the wins going to Thunder Rolls. And again, this is a 2,500 game simulation. Figured since it's the final round, why not just simulations all day? So the, I guess the synopsis here is that even though we moved the Moon Knight's mechs into a direct fire roll, they just weren't complementary with that Battle Master and that Thunderbolt. So when we think about, everything we've seen in this tournament so far, and we think about, lessons learned in terms of lance composition, in terms of how to sort of play your mechs on the table, I think there's a good story here. And that story is the lance has to be complementary, right? Having a bunch of mechs that can compete at short range is fine, as long as you have devastatingly powerful long-range mechs. And I think the Moon Knights had the Awesome, which is okay, pretty good at long range, but that was played in a second line role. I think that Warhammer 60, also pretty good in a direct fire role, but again, the Battle Master and that Thunderbolt are just sort of waddling in at 4 inches a turn, maybe 6 if they sprint, and they're just not able to get in fast enough. What set Thunder Rolls apart, I think, in this competition was that crab was not only able to get in fast, but it's scary enough that you have to focus on it. If you guys remember way back, we did a comparison in this tournament with John from Ion Radio. He had his Ion Raiders. He had a similar thing. He had that Phoenix Hawk, and he had that in, I believe it was in a strike roll or in a pursuit roll, where it was just zipping across the battlefield. The problem was it was outpacing all of the bigger, slower mechs in the lance. The crab is only slightly faster than everything else in this Thunder Rolls lance. I think it's really well designed. I think there's a lot of synergy. So as you think about, and as I think about, how I want to design lances in the future, if I'm playing competitively, and it's not a narrative game, but I really want to win, there's some really good lessons, I think, in this tournament overall. So, guys, that's it. The tournament is over. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll probably do another tournament again soon, maybe over the summer, maybe in the fall. We got to see, how the schedule shakes out. Of course, we got all kinds of exciting things in the hopper. Also, I will say, guys, Force Packs, Lance Packs, whatever they're called, they're out and about. You can check over at Aries Games and Minis. I know he had some stock in earlier. I believe there is more on the way. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about the Destiny rulebook and the Alpha Strike rulebook and where you can get that. Aries Games and Minis, that's the place to go. It's where I get all my stuff. It's fantastic pricing. Derek has great customer service. Always happy to help you out if you need anything. He's always there, always responsive. So definitely check that out. And of course, guys, don't forget to subscribe. Please leave us a like and a comment. Let us know what you thought about the tournament. Always love reading through the comments, especially on these videos, just to see what you guys are thinking and get your feedback. But that is all I got. So guys, thank you so much. Oh, and one more thing. If you want to be in the next tournament, check us out over at Patreon. There are multiple tiers. Our veteran level tier, which is currently the highest tier, they're the ones that get access to all these fun competitions. And the winner of this particular tournament is winning a finely painted lance from the Game of Armored Combat box set. And because I was feeling generous and because it was such a great fight, the Lance Commander of the Moon Knights getting the other lance that was not selected. So both of these guys going home winners. So congrats to both of those. And again, if you want to be in the next tournament, head on over to Patreon and check us out there. But guys, that's all I've got. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, stay tuned. Always great stuff coming from Death from Above Wargaming. Have a good night.